All right, we are going to start our notes over the Industrial Revolution, and this should be a review for you guys. Hopefully you have heard of the Industrial Revolution before. First of all, before we get to the Industrial Revolution, I want to talk about a time when agriculture was taking a storm and was really improving, and scientific thought and new inventions were really helping with agricultural productions. Farmers are going to start experimenting with new farming methods. They're going to start to want increasing their crop yields. That means getting more crops. So they're going to start applying scientific thought, and they're going to start using new innovations and new scientific technology that's coming out to apply it to farming and to apply it to agriculture. And you're going to have new innovations. You're going to have the seed drill. You're going to have new machines that are going to help farmers harvest their crops faster. And so they're going to be able to put out a better and bigger crop. They also come up with this idea of crop rotation, meaning planting different crops on the same field to restore the nutrients. So having one crop that depletes the nutrients and then replacing it with a crop that would restore those nutrients. And so they're going to have different crops, yet they're going to be able to plant on that field multiple times. And with this agricultural revolution, that's going to create a reliable food source. And as we've talked about, when you have a reliable food source and people are fed, then the population is going to be steady, and you're going to have a very active labor force. And so with that active labor force, you are going to need people to work, and you're going to need people out in the workforce. And that's exactly what's going to happen because of this agricultural revolution and these changes. You're going to have fewer people needing to work on farms because now there's tools and machines to do that. You're going to need people out to work in the cities. And that's going to lead to the Industrial Revolution. And the Industrial Revolution, in essence, changes the way that goods are made. They are no longer going to be made in cottage industries. They are no longer going to be made in a domestic situation at home. They're going to be made in a factory, and that they're going to be done on a large scale. They're going to start manufacturing. They're going to have mass production, which is just large scale production of goods. And because of this, you're going to start to see industrialization. And they're going to start to develop a machine production of goods. And this begins in England. The reason why it begins in England, first of all, Great Britain has lots of harbors, they've got rivers, they have coal, they're an island, so they are pretty much protected from invasion, and they're close to a lot of European markets. So the geography of Great Britain makes it conducive for this industrial revolution. They have colonies, okay? At this time, they've got colonies that are bringing in their raw materials, and they're running this colonial empire. So they're going to be able to extract raw materials to manufacture at home. They have a powerful, large middle class. They participated in the government. They promoted capitalism or free enterprise. And they brought those factors of production that you needed in order to be successful. Also, they participated in agricultural improvements. They had the agricultural revolution. And transportation. They had good coastal trade, they had canals, they had ports, they had communication with newspapers. So they were advanced enough in order to support this industrial environment. And so that was really crucial as the Industrial Revolution is developed in England. First of all, in order to have industry, in order to have business, you have to have the factors of production. And there's just 3 factors of production that we're going to talk about. You have to have land, you have to have labor, and you got to have capital. So you need a place for your business to happen. You need people to work at your business to promote a product or to create a product. And you need capital. You need money. And that is what they had in England. And England provided those 3 factors of production. So that is why the Industrial Revolution is able to take off and begin in England. The first kind of field that the Industrial Revolution is really taking off is going to be in the textile industry. This innovations in the textile industry, you're going to have new machines, you're going to have textile mills, and you're going to have new ways spin cotton together to create cloth, and the people are going to have kind of a scientific approach. You're going to see this scientific thought is going to carry into the Industrial Revolution. We've talked about the scientific revolution moving into the Enlightenment, and then you're going to see them apply this new thought and new ideas to creating and building industry. And so the textile industry is going to grow rapidly with the growth of textile mills. You're going to have the spinning jenny, which is just a spinning wheel that's able to spin many threads at once. And you're going to have the flying shuttle, which is another invention that kind of doubles the work that a weaver can do in one day. And among all of these things, you're going to have all of these machines in one location where a manager can supervise you and make sure that you are working in a factory. Okay, factories are going to become huge. There are machines that are set up in large buildings for mass production. These machines are all going to be lined up in these buildings, and people are going to work the machines. You're going to have a supervisor that makes sure everyone's working, and they're going to run for 12 to 14 hours a day, 6 days per week, because the more production that a person can produce in a factory, the more the owner of the business is going to gain. So you're going to start to see the growth of factories. So how did the scientific thought, scientific revolution, how is it going to impact the development of the Industrial Revolution? Go ahead and pause the video and think about this question right now. We're going to go ahead and move on. So this shift to factories, your manufacturing, like I said, is going to go from cottage industries, which is just domestic, at-home production, to a factory system. So that domestic system is now going to become a factory system. And factories allowed people to work and be supervised, like I said. And the machines are going to be able to run by water power or by steam power that had become very popular during that time. And so production is going to increase. It's going to get quicker. And as this happened in the textile industry, the demand for textiles went up, because the price of cloth is going to decrease. And so, because of this, there is going to be an onset of textile factories being built. And if you don't know what a textile is, I should have probably said this earlier, but a textile is just like cloth. So textiles are going to boom and really take off during the Industrial Revolution. All right. With this booming of business and textile mills and factories starting to emerge, you're going to have transportation methods are going to start being improved. And you're going to have a man by the name of James Watt who makes improvements to the steam engine to make it more efficient and to make it a better source of power, because steam, after James Watt had improved it, becomes a very cheap and convenient source of power. And so now machines and factories can now run off of this steam power. And a man by the name of Robert Fulton is going to take that steam one step further, and he's going to try to use it on a steamboat. And he is successful, because now the steamboat can move up and downstream powered by steam, not just powered by current. So his first boat, the Clermont, ferried passengers along New York City's Hudson River. And Robert Fulton was the one who pioneered that. You're also going to get railroads and locomotives, and that is going to be huge. That's going to have a great impact on the economy, because it's going to unite cities and towns, and shipping goods is going to be a lot easier, and shipping materials. And so this is going to stimulate the economy. Also, that creates a demand for coal, for steel, for the tracks, and iron. And so this is going to corner a new market of manufacturing that needs to be done in order to build these railroads and these steam locomotives that become so influential on on the economy during this time. Okay, with the new factories and the new industry taking off, you're going to start to see urbanization. Cities are going to grow. There's no longer a demand for people working in farms. People are now getting jobs in cities, at the factories, and cities are going to get huge. Population is going to shift from the rural areas to the urban areas, and cities, as a result, are going to become overcrowded, and they're going to become unsanitary. Okay, the cities are not going to have any codes, no building codes, no sanitation codes. It's going to be very unsanitary to live in these cities, but people were coming in by the droves. And it's going to take a huge toll on a lot of these cities, and it's going to kind of cause this cry out for the government to get involved and to intervene with some of the problems that the cities were facing during the Industrial Revolution. Also, socially, the middle class is going to grow because now business and factory owners aren't going to begin making a lot of money. So the middle class is going to be your factory owners, your merchants, and your shippers, your people who are taking advantage of this business. And so the middle class is going to increase. Now, I don't want you to think that there was no poverty as the middle class increases. The factory workers are still going to remain poor. They're still going to receive low wages, and they're still going to receive long hours and not enough pay. So it's going to be important that you realize that just because the middle class grows does not mean that the factory workers are growing with it. They actually remained poor and kind of still had those hard working conditions that are very characteristic of the Industrial Revolution. So also you need to know that this middle class, as the middle class grows and as the poverty, as people remain poor, you're going to have lots of tensions between those two classes of people. Like I was talking about, the working class and the working conditions for those people, they were horrible. The working conditions in factories were absolutely torrential. Owners, they wanted their factories to run as much as possible. They wanted to be able to get as much production out of their factories as they could. So they oftentimes pushed 14-hour days, 6 days a week. People were working. Children were oftentimes working. You had to see here children working in the factories, and they would, because they had small hands and they could reach and figure into the machines, and they could work faster because their hands were small. So they could do more work and reach into the machines. That was one way that factory owners were able to get a lot of production, was by employing children. The factories were not clean. They were not safe. The machines inside the factories were not safe, and there was no plan for these workers when they would become injured. And so it was just not a very good situation all around for these workers. So the impact of industrialization. So we know about all of this industrialization, all of this change. Once the Industrial Revolution takes off, we know that the urban areas grew rapidly. Cities grew and living conditions were hard. The cities could not keep up with the improvements that were needed to accommodate to these mass amounts of people moving in. On the good side and the economic side, jobs. People are getting more jobs. It contributes to the wealth of the nation. It's going to expand educational opportunities. People are going to need more education. People are going to have jobs. It's going to kind of boom the economy as far as creating jobs and extending opportunities for people. The middle class is going to grow. The middle class is going to get larger because factory owners and merchants and shippers are now going to make a lot of money as production increases. And this is going to cause that tension between the lower and middle class people. And the working conditions remain bad. Child labor, long hours, dangerous conditions, and really no regulations being put into place to kind of curb this problem yet. So it's going to be kind of, the Industrial Revolution is going to be characterized by these things. So let's wrap it up. Number one, I want you to tell me, how did the Industrial Revolution change the way that people lived? I want you to describe how people lived, kind of thinking about how people lived before, and then I want you to tell me, how does this Industrial Revolution going to change that? And then I want you to tell me, how did the Industrial Revolution have an economic impact and a social impact on the lives of people living in during this time? Okay, whenever you are finished, go ahead and have your notes ready for next time.